Hello everyone, I'm Dalton.
And I'm Clinton.
And this is the LA Do Podcast. Hey you. Yeah, I'm talking to you. The one that's listening to this podcast right now. You stop right there. Just to let you know, this podcast is recorded before the 16th, posted on the 16th of December, right before December 17th, which is when most people are going to go watch Spider-Man No Way Home. Just to let you know, this video is just about theories and rumors about the film. It contains no spoilers whatsoever. A lot of people that are listening to this, and us included, probably haven't seen the film yet until the 17th, so if you could, please, if you have watched it, don't put any spoilers in the comments. And, of course, just
don't be that guy.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Welcome back to the LA Do Podcast, where we talk about all things from comics to movies to video games and everything in between. On today's special episode, we, as of time of release, one day before the worldwide release of Spider-Man No Way Home, while yes, on the day of release, the 16th of December, some places have, limited showings, early showings?
Very, very limited showings.
Yeah, in the United States at least. Unfortunately, we are not one of the lucky ones to go see it, but we will be seeing it tomorrow, December 17th, the official release date. And this is more so just some last-minute speculations, some theories about what could go on in No Way Home. While we already know a lot about the plot, there's still some things that are speculated about, isn't that right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they keep in secret. I mean, a lot of things that were supposed to be secret have come out, especially with the villains, and we'll get to that probably in a few minutes.
Yeah, I'll probably mention that.
A lot of things have still been kept secret, and for once, Tom Holland's able to keep his mouth shut, and, barely. But, yeah, I mean, there's still a lot of secret going on.
Speaking of, I'm just going to talk about Tom Holland not keeping secrets for a second. What's funny about that is, especially with recent interviews, he's not by himself. So they're not taking a chance for him to spoil anything. He's always, especially with, in the last one, well, it was with, I know Infinity War, they paired him with Benedict Cumberbatch, and then for Far From Home, they paired him with Jake Gyllenhaal. And then also Zendaya. They would always have him with someone to make sure that he didn't spoil anything.
And this one's definitely been about the same. I think they've had really all of the main cast of this movie
just about
with
everyone,
Tom Holland
yeah,
while he's doing his interviews.
Mostly Zendaya, but
yeah, I mean Benedict's been with him just a little bit, but yeah, Zendaya's been there a lot too. But yeah, it's funny they're actually able to keep secrets this time. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and regarding secrets, some things that were meant to be secret, according to Tom Holland recently, he said that the villains were not supposed to be revealed.
Yeah,
which is very interesting.
A lot of it was supposed to say secret. And my thing was, I don't know what they're. I mean, obviously, as like some fans, like you and me, we're gonna watch it regardless. Regardless of what the plot's supposed to be or something like that, we're gonna watch it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, what would have been their selling point other than maybe a feud between Spider-Man
That
and
is
Doctor Strange?
exactly what he said. He said it was supposed to be billed as civil war, pretty much, between Doctor Strange and Spider-Man.
I mean, it seems like it's still going to kind of be that, but at the same time, yeah, they just added a couple extra villains in the mix, too.
Well, I think the core of the film is going to be Spider-Man versus the Sinister Five?
I guess
Ferocious Five?
I think that's what we're going to call them right now.
Yeah, that's why I want to get to the villains, because while Tom Holland spoke about, the villains being secret, that makes me think that there's more villains other than the five. Because currently, and this is not speculation, these are the 5 villains that are going to appear in Spider-Man No Way Home. We have the Green Goblin, who is said to be the main villain. Doc Ock, who has gotten the most screen time through the trailers.
Yeah.
And Electro. Electro's gotten a lot of showing time through the trailers and through the trailers, but also the placement and just trying to get the word out about the film.
Yeah.
And a lot of ads. But of course, unfortunately, the 2 villains that have not gotten much love besides 2 trailers. Sandman and the Lizard, which is very sad. Especially for the actors.
Well, here's the thing. And that is the fact that, I hate to say it, and it doesn't really have to do with Electro. I know people are going to, hate me for saying this, of course. But Sandman and Lizard are not necessarily villains from everyone's favorite Spider-Man movies. Now, I know Electro is not anyone's favorite Spider-Man villain from Amazing Spider-Man 2. However, I guess as an actor, Jamie Foxx is a good point to be he's going to be in this movie, because he's a great actor.
Well, I also think it's supposed to be, they're giving him another chance because the film flopped so hard.
But I also think
they want to give him another outing.
And one thing I will say is, I think they really wanted to show him, and I could be completely wrong, but they changed his whole look, his whole getup, and that's probably something they wanted to show. Hey, I didn't dislike the blue,
Well, it's comic
Electro,
accurate. It was comic accurate.
I like the new one as well. I really enjoyed it. So I think maybe that's something they wanted to show.
Keep that in mind, because I do want to have a theory about Electro. But going back to the villains, some speculation of some villains who could show up. Venom. Now, it's been a couple months since Venom Let There Be Carnage has come out. So, spoiler warning if you haven't seen it. In the post-credit scene for Venom Let There Be Carnage, Eddie Brock and Venom are transported to the MCU from their world. Or their universe, sorry. So, there's some speculation that Venom could possibly be in it. I think he will, at least in a post-credit scene. There's already a rumor of a post-credit scene being the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness trailer, saying that is going to be a post-credit scene. It could be true. You never know. But Venom could show up. Of the leaked, there's been 2 leaked post-credit scenes that I've seen about Venom. One seems more likely than the other, but then again, I don't know. The 2 leaked post-credit scenes, now, take this with a grain of salt, this could be wrong. I saw it on Instagram, so you never know. And they got their source from Twitter, so you never know. The first one that I think is more plausible is, they said Peter Parker would be going in to apply for a job at the Daily Bugle, and he sees a picture, I think, taken of Spider-Man, and it says by Eddie Brock. He says, "Who is Eddie Brock?" And he turns around, something said to him. He turns around, and there's Tom Hardy's Eddie Brock. The reason I think that, well, it's plausible, yes, but the reason I think it might not be is because the Daily Bugle in the MCU is not necessarily newspaper. It's like InfoWars. Even though Sony recently had in New York, they had a one-time Daily Bugle stand, that was a paper. And it was the Daily Bugle that was, in the MCU. But it was just weird.
Yeah, right. And one thing, and this is a me personally thing, Tom Holland's Peter Parker doesn't seem like the photographer type Peter Parker. Yeah. And I may be wrong on that. Maybe they just haven't shown that yet. But we're 3 movies in. and they haven't ever kind of like brought that up ever.
Well,
and maybe he's just a different Peter. Maybe it's just a different take on Peter.
Well,
I don't know.
One way that I guess you could say you could kind of fit that in is that in the other two Spider-Man films, Peter becomes Spider-Man later in his life.
Yes.
In the first Spider-Man film, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man becomes Spider-Man when he's a senior in high school. In The Amazing Spider-Man, I think it's he's like a junior.
Yeah, he's like
in
a
high
junior,
school, and he becomes Spider-Man. Because he's a senior. He graduates in the second movie.
Yes.
So I think it's said, or kind of not said, but like
assumed.
Yeah, sorry. Assumed that he's a junior.
Yeah.
So Peter in this one, he becomes Spider-Man as a freshman.
Yeah.
Because after in Homecoming he is a sophomore, I believe. Or is he still a freshman? He might still be a freshman.
In Far From Home?
In Homecoming.
Homecoming? I think he's a freshman. I really don't know. I think he might have been a sophomore, but
I think he was. He might have been a sophomore.
I'm wrong, and if anyone wants to go in the comments and tell me I'm wrong, I'm cool with it.
Well, it makes...
Did he not say that he was 15? Or was he 16?
He was 15 when he became Spider-Man.
Okay, well, he might have been 15 at the time. I don't know. I know they mentioned... I think they mentioned his name in Homecoming... Or, not his name, I'm sorry.
His age.
His age. I think they mentioned his age.
He might have. They might have. I know for a fact in Far From Home, they did. Because it shows his passport. And it says he was born in 2000.
Okay.
Oh, that makes a lot more sense. Yeah, he was born in 2000. So, that Peter would have been 16 in the events of Civil War. So yeah, he would have been at least a sophomore.
Okay, fair enough.
In Homecoming.
See, that's so weird, though, because I know, certain actors look certain ways, stuff like that, but, there's such a difference in appearance when the first Spider-Man movie of each one, they look so different from one another when it comes to age. I mean, I'd say Tom Holland's a very, nowadays, believable sophomore, even though he was, 21?
Well, actually, now he's technically, in this film, he's a senior. He's graduating.
Right.
Like, that's the whole plot of... Or not the whole plot. That's part of the plot in No Way Home, is that he is graduating, and he's trying to get into some big school in New York. I can't remember what. I think him, MJ, and Ned are trying to get into it. And they can't because the secret's out.
Yeah. But one thing, especially with the older Spider-Man movies, I'm probably going to target Tobey Maguire's 2002 Spider-Man the most.
Yeah.
We were watching it a couple days ago to kind of refresh ourselves on the movies, and that was one thing I pointed out. I'm like, not Tom Holland, I'm sorry, Tobey Maguire, he looks young at that time, even though he was about 26 years old, I think, when they filmed it. He still looked very young, but he was surrounded by people. A senior. He was surrounded by people that looked like they were in college.
Well, I will say, the three main actors and actress from that film, Kristen Dunst, Tobey Maguire, and James Franco, they all looked young enough. Toby was like the oldest.
Yeah, for
James
sure.
James Franco was the next oldest. Kristen Dunst was the youngest.
Yeah, and she was still in her. I think she was 20. I think.
Yeah, she was in her early 20s.
Yeah. So
she was more believable as a senior because she was closer. Now Toby, he had a young looking face, so he. Especially with the glasses.
He still does.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't look like he's aged at all. It's about like Paul Rudd. He looks like a vampire.
Leonardo DiCaprio.
Tom Cruise.
He's kind of getting a little older now, but he's
grown the facial hair.
Yeah, for sure.
Tangent. But, when you have people like that, yeah, it's like they look a little older, so it's like, it's not as believable. Andrew Garfield, to his credit, did seem like he kind of looked like a high schooler. A little older. He was more believable if he was a senior. Emma Stone, I will say, even though she was a little bit older in The Amazing Spider-Man, the way they did, I guess her makeup and her hair and the way she acted, it made her seem younger.
Right.
So she played the part well.
I'm not, taking away credit from any of them, being trying to play high schoolers, but some of it is. Tom Holland Spider-Man is probably the most believable of them. I would say the way they were in the 2002 Spider-Man. I guess for that time period, it made a lot of sense. I guess they were trying to play stereotypical.
Well, that was kind of like stereotypical Hollywood too.
Sure,
because they would have older people play younger people.
Yeah. So But definitely.
What's funny is that with Emma Stone being in high school, for Amazing Spider-Man. It's funny because 5 years before that, she was in Superbad playing a high school senior.
Yeah.
So that's really, really weird from going from playing a high school senior to playing like a high school junior. And then a senior. And then dying.
Oh, man.
Going thwack. But going off of that, villains. Mysterio, no. I don't think he will. I think Mysterio is concretely dead. Unfortunately, as much as I hate it.
It's either that or this whole thing is just
See, that's the thing. I think for a fact that it's Mysterio's dead.
Well, my thing is I could... If someone said, hey, this new movie, all the stuff's going on, it's just Mysterio playing tricks on him, I'd believe it. But the thing is at this point, I think the Mysterio thing's done.
Well, with Doctor Strange, I
think that's done, and you need to move on with other... I mean, there's so many other characters that we have the Hawkeye show that's out right now. I mean, in the comics, I mean, and especially in the video games for the Spider-Man video games and whatnot, I mean, Kingpin he's got something to do with Spider-Man sometimes, and so like that.
Oh, yeah.
There's so many things you could be doing other than Mysterio.
Yeah, I don't think Mysterio is in it at all. Other villains, I don't see... other than maybe variants, I don't know. I don't think we're going to see new Goblin, James Franco. Definitely not. Amazing Spider-Man 2, Green Goblin. I
don't think
anyone think he will show up
to see that.
Well, the only reason I'm saying that is because in the trailer, what is presumed to be after the final battle, or at least during the final battle, Doctor Strange is doing something. He does some kind of spell or something is opened. It cracks the multiverse open and they have to fix it. Peter gives him the go-ahead to do whatever he's about to do. At least it seems. So maybe he's wiping everyone's memory, which I don't think it does, and I'll get to that in a minute. But it looks like the multiverse is cracking. So you could possibly see people come in, and I'll also get to that in a minute, to who could possibly be coming in. But I don't know if any other villains are. Because I don't see, like, Chameleon coming in.
I can see...
Or anything like that.
I can see some new villains popping up, or maybe some villains from the past that we've seen, not necessarily in the Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire stuff, but, people we've seen in the Tom Holland ones. I mean... Scorpion can appear
that's the thing.
Anywhere.
Scorpion has not been touched on yet.
No,
I hope they do that in the new trilogy.
I mean,
Vulture.
Something could happen when Vulture comes back. I mean...
Morbius, too. I feel like Morbius
that'd be super cool. I would love to see that.
And it could also give an explanation why Morbius and Vulture are together in that mixed multiversal movie.
It could also kind of make sense of why Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man's involved, like on like a poster. He was, right?
Not Andrew. No,
not Andrew. It was Tobey. Okay.
It was a screenshot from Spider-Man PS4 with Tobey's suit. It says murderer. So it's pulling from presumed murder of Mysterio by Spider-Man, but it's saying it's Tobey's Spider-Man, has the same logo of the Daily Bugle in that movie as Tobey and of Venom. The movie mentions Venom in the Morbius trailer twice, at least, and it's like, what kind of film is this?
Well, one thing that Vulture, I have to think of is that I would love to see Morbius in it, but at the same time, for them to put him in it before his movie, well, they might do it.
Jared Leto was at the premiere.
Correct.
Which is crazy.
Yes.
You know who wasn't at the premiere? Tobey and Andrew.
Well,
but that makes sense. It makes sense if they're wanting to hide it. But, like, Morbius could be cool.
It'd be super cool. I'd freak out. For sure.
Uh,
Because even though I was saying that'd be super cool, this and that, it kind of makes sense, I would not be expecting it whatsoever. Like, that'd be something, until they kind of were hinting at the fact that there might be more villains than just what they showed in the trailers. I thought that we were just going to get the base, like, 5,
Yeah.
and maybe like Scorpion or Vulture and stuff. Maybe they get out of prison or whatever. But the idea that other villains from other universes might come in, that's crazy.
And it could make sense because Doctor Strange can't hold all of them. So someone from another, universe comes in and stays, could make sense.
Now the only thing is that if a bunch of villains do come in, how believable? How are we supposed to believe that Tom Holland, maybe the other 2 Spider-Man, and then Doctor Strange are able to take all of them? There's got to be something else, There got to be, maybe Doc Ock might be on Team Spider-Man.
See, that's what I want to get to,
and that's cool too. But I mean, though this is a very far-fetched theory
for Far From Home or No Way Home, sorry, that was a lot.
But the idea of like Spider-Gwen, stuff like that—that'd be super cool.
Hold that thought. I do want to get back to that. Going off of the villains, what I'd said a minute ago to where I could pull back from Electro. A theory that I have about Electro that seems to be kind of confirmed through the trailers and recent TV spots. So when Spider-Man, he uses his black and gold suit to go hunt the multiversal threats. In the first trailer, it's shown that it's his black and gold suit, and there's some golden electricity, yellow electricity, and some sand. So it's presumed to be that's Sandman and Electro. In the second trailer, where it actually shows Electro in the background, and Tom Holland's in his black and gold suit using some magic, he's blue in the beginning. Electro is blue. So what I think is happening is that Electro is actually, when he's manifesting, he's still pure electricity. But coming from his universe into this one, because he's in the power lines, he's absorbing that electricity, that power, so it gives him his human form back, and it's golden. But the only way he can maintain it is through the arc reactor. It was shown in the first trailer and in subsequent TV spots, he is wearing an arc reactor, powered up with some kind of like prosthetic on his suit, his like very basic suit, which is very very comic accurate almost.
Sometimes basic is more. And
less is more.
I think this is one of those cases.
Well, it's like with Sandman in the third Spider-Man film. Like his costume
I hope it's almost the same thing. He looked like Steve from Blue's Clues, and I kind of liked it.
Well, that's the thing.
And that's how it was in the comic, by the way, as well. So.
From that theory saying that, maybe it's the arc reactor he has to use. And New Rockstars on YouTube talked about this a little bit. They said that it looks like the second arc reactor that Tony has, which was the one after he discovered the element that he used. So it could be something from an earlier line of Stark Tech, which is said to be used by the villains. Like, apparently a rumor is that Green Goblin is controlling the villains using Stark Tech, which could make sense with Doc Ock using the nano tech, Electro using the arc reactor, and Green Goblin presumably using something that's Stark related with his stuff, because he is apparently getting an upgrade per Willem Dafoe in his I believe it was like a comic book convention or comic book panel in Brazil recently. So that could work. A theory about the 2 other villains, Lizard and Sandman. We don't see them in their human forms.
Correct.
And what is crazy is that a leak had said that Lizard would be in like some pants and a trench coat. In all of the trailers and the TV spots that he's been in,
he's not.
Yeah. He's a little upgraded. I will say he looks more dinosaur-ish, because he looks like he's got like bumps along the top of his head, almost looking like Abomination's spine in the Incredible Hulk film. But I will say, this is the Andrew Garfield lizard because of the attention to detail on his hand. In the first Amazing Spider-Man movie, Captain Stacy, Gwen Stacy's dad, shoots the lizard's hand after it's been frozen with like, oh, I can't remember what exactly it's called, but it's like, it like instant freezes some things, and like it can be easily broken afterwards.
Right.
I'm sure it'll come to me later, and I'll look like an idiot. But he shoots it, and his hand grows back like a lizard would with its tail, but it only grows 4 fingers back. He doesn't have the 5 fingers anymore. So it's clearly it's not Sam Raimi, the Andrew Garfield lizard, and not just a random multiversal lizard. So it is the same. And the only thing is, we have not seen Sandman in his human form either. In the 2 shots that have shown Sandman, he's a giant sand monster, but very different from Spider-Man 3.
He kind of looks like a gigantic cloud.
He looks like a sandstorm.
Yeah, like a sandstorm. It's like really windy outside, and he's just kind of pushing back a little bit.
But also, in another like shot from a trailer, it looks like he's grabbing his daughter's picture again from Spider-Man 3 when he first got his powers. Which, when I noticed it, I was like, what? Because it looks like a recreation or a reuse of that scene. So we'd have to watch the film to find out, but
right.
It's interesting to see. And staying on the Lizard and Sandman, the whole thing about the villains is they're taken from the point in which they were killed or died. Willem Dafoe, it was when he was stabbed by his own glider. Doc Ock is when he sacrificed himself in the river. Electro is when he got overcharged. Sandman and Lizard, it's unknown. The only thing about Doc Ock, real quick, is that when Doc Ock died and sacrificed himself, he was good. Now he's bad. So the theory is now, or what's speculated, is that he's taken right before Peter talks to him and says, snap out of it, you gotta take control of your own arms, and before he does. Which can make sense because that's when he finds out it's Peter. But it's like, that's not necessarily right before he dies, or like in the moment that he dies, it's before he decides to be good and take control. For Sandman and Lizard, they're not killed in the films. And what's being said now is that it's from a future point in their universe in which they die. So that means that Flint Marko Sandman goes back to crime after being let go by Spider-Man and showing that he's, has some humanity in him still. And yet he dies by Spider-Man's hand. I had a theory that he dies, technically, in Spider-Man 3 when Spider-Man is using the symbiote suit and pours water on him in the sewer scene. Technically, you could say that Sandman died because he was turned into mud. He later was able to come back and be fine, but that could have been a point of near death. For Lizard, I don't know, because at no point in the movie did Lizard come to near death in The Amazing Spider-Man. So it had to have been at some point afterwards where Andrew Garfield fights the Lizard and he dies, which doesn't make sense. But
right. But one thing I want to mention is we're talking a lot about the villains, right?
Yeah.
And especially the confirmed ones. But let's get more on the rumor side and the fact that, obviously as of right now, it's besides quote-unquote spoilers or potential spoilers or anything like that, the rumor still is right now, as of the 16th, that Toby and Andrew are going to be in this movie. And that's
they are. Come on.
Well, I believe
I know
so?
you believe it. I believe it. Everyone else believes it.
But as of right now, it's a rumor. By tomorrow, it won't be. It would be the yes or no.
Well, actually, technically by now, because of
yes, of course, because of the
early
premiere
screenings,
and
yeah.
yes. But I want to talk about some things that I was thinking about when it comes to, just kind of thinking about, what could be in the movie. And that is that if Toby and Andrew are being brought in, I'm going to take a guess that it's their present selves, not, from 2002 or 4 or 7.
Yeah, that is what is being said, yeah.
So my thing is are we going to... I'm sure we're not going to get kind of like a scene of their own universe and then brought into this universe. So my question is, are we going to get a little bit of a talking about like, what's going on in their, what's been going on in their lives? Like that. For example,
some backstory.
Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There was an awfully planned Spider-Man 4 before it got canceled, right? Yeah. So I didn't necessarily like the idea that it was getting taken. But it's like, so when we're here and maybe we could hear about what's going on, did the canceled 4th Spider-Man movie, was that canon? Was the potential Amazing Spider-Man 3 in Andrew Garfield's universe, did those events ever happen? Stuff like that. What's going on with both their Aunt Mays? Stuff like that. Are we going to know what's going on with them?
That's what I'm thinking, because what's said right now through potential leaks or rumors is that there is going to be some backstory into what has been happening with the Spider-Man, because they're older. This comes from, like you said, their present day. So it's not going to be...
Stuff's happened.
Yeah, it's going to not be right after like Spider-Man 2
right.
or Amazing Spider-Man 2. With this, what's said is that when they first show up in the film, they're going to be like professors. They're scientists. So that means that Peter has obviously gotten older. He's probably not in Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He's not working at the Bugle anymore or anything like that. Has a family. It's rumored that he is still with Mary Jane.
Yeah.
And that Andrew Garfield is with his Mary Jane.
See, that's a big thing, too. It's just like, at the last time we saw Andrew Garfield Spider-Man,
he was mourning. Well, and he came back.
He was mourning, and then he was like, I can overcome this and move on. And then there was like the rumors about, his MJ coming in and stuff like that. So, did that ever happen?
I think they will say that the connection between all 3 Spider-Man is that they all have an MJ. Even though it's not Mary Jane for Tom Holland's Spider-Man, it's Michelle Jones, Zendaya's character. It's still an MJ. It's still their love interest. And the whole thing is that that's what kind of connects them. I think some of like the rumors going around is that it's kind of like believable is that Toby is more of a mentor figure to both Spider-Man, and that while he mentors Tom Holland Spider-Man, he also mentors Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, who may not necessarily like the way he acts or views or whatever it is, but he respects him. And Andrew Garfield Spider-Man is more of like a brother figure to Tom Holland Spider-Man. I guess because he's still younger, technically, but also because he explains to him that he's lost Gwen Stacy. He let her die. He tried to save her. And that resonates with Tom Holland, which many people are speculating that in the scene where MJ falls in No Way Home, it's not Tom saving her, it's Andrew. He's not going to allow it to happen again. I think I have a theory on this. Now, I've not necessarily seen it before, because it plays off of that. I think that in the No Way Home trailer where it shows Goblin gliding in with the whirling pumpkin bombs that are like the knives, he's doing that to distract Tom Holland's Spider-Man so that he can't save Mary Jane. Similarly to what he did in Spider-Man 1. But then he's not expecting Andrew to come in and Andrew saves her while Tom is fighting Green Goblin. That's what I think.
Right.
And it could be plausible. You never know.
And one thing that would be super interesting for sure is that, obviously you want to see, Tobey's Spider-Man go against Goblin again. You want to see, Andrew go against Lizard, stuff like that. But it would be super interesting, and, obviously we've seen a little bit with Tom Holland, with his issues with Doc Ock at first, stuff like that. But seeing a Spider-Man from their own respective universe going against someone who's not. You know, like Toby going against Electro, and then Andrew going
that's
against,
what it looks like.
I mean, it's really cool concept.
In the like big money hero shot in the trailer, the second trailer, you can see Tom Holland jumping into the three villains. Spider-Man. Yeah, Spider-Man's the villain. You see him going against Sandman in the middle.
I mean, yeah, in this movie he kind of is looked at as a villain, but
yeah.
Yeah.
But Sandman in the middle, Electro top a little bit, and Lizard on the bottom. In the Brazilian trailer, Lizard gets kicked, and they've painted out somebody. People are saying that is most definitely Andrew Garfield Spider-Man going against the Lizard, which would make sense. Tom Holland Spider-Man is diving past Sandman, because in the shot it's all showing Electro on top and Sandman's sandstorm, and he's diving past it, while Tobey Maguire is going against Electro. So it does seem like it could be that, because the Tobey villains and the Garfield villains are kind of outnumbered.
For sure.
It's 3 Tobey Maguire villains and 2 Andrew Garfield villains.
And not a single one from Tom Holland's
so
far.
One of them's dead, and the other one is possibly in another universe.
Very true.
But I will say, you were mentioning Doc Ock possibly being on Spider-Man's side. In the second trailer, it is shown Electro shooting a bolt of lightning, but the way it's done, the bolt hits and there's a body falling. Closer inspection. Now, I've not seen anyone mention this. I don't know why. Now, they could have, and I just haven't seen it. Doc Ock is falling after a bolt of lightning is struck. Doc Ock is not shown anywhere else in that trailer besides the bridge scene and where he's speaking to Ned, Peter, and MJ. He's nowhere else in the trailer. He has no more scenes. You see everyone else except for Doc Ock. Doc Ock is probably turned back into a good guy and sacrifices himself and dies again, is what I'm thinking. Almost like a James Franco situation where he sacrifices himself for Peter. Now, it's probably not the same thing. He probably tries to stop someone, and Electro in the trailer says, "You're not going to take this away from me." Now, while I think it might be a different scene that he says that, it could be this scene where Doc Ock tries to explain to him that they need to go back, and he tells them, "You're not doing this to me," and potentially kills him. Because that is most definitely Doc Ock falling. There are 4 arms in that scene, along with a body. That's definitely Doc Ock. So that is potentially seeing the second death of Dr. Octavius, which I think could happen. Now, off of that, the multiverse opening. You had mentioned something about people coming in. You specifically noted Spider-Gwen.
Yes. Mostly because I love Spider-Man.
Yes. I don't think it'll happen.
No.
The reason I say it is because a lot of people are saying, oh, it could be, more Spider-Man. Oh, Miles Morales is coming in. I don't think Miles is coming in. Not live action. Not right now. Because Across the Spider-Verse is coming out. I believe it was 2022 or 2023? I think it was 2022.
I think it was 2022.
With the speculation that Tom Holland has been approached by the Across the Spider-Verse team, it kind of makes you think, and the rumor that was confirmed that they were originally going to have all 3 live-action Spider-Men Into the Spider-Verse, kind of makes you think they're holding off on a live-action Miles. I think. They can do a live-action everything else, but right now they're holding off on that to have Tom's trilogy and his second trilogy go through, whatever else their plans are right now, and then bring him in later on.
I also feel, especially with Miles, that there might be, I mean, if anyone's got a suggestion, obviously put it in the comments, but I don't know if there's anyone right now,
that could play
who's
Miles?
the perfect actor for Miles right now. How old of a Miles are we talking? We talking,
Yeah, because Miles has to be
PS4
younger.
Spider-Man Miles? Are we talking,
Or
kind
Ultimate
of like
Universe
yeah,
Miles,
exactly. That was a
where
little
he
bit
was
of an
younger.
old. Well, yeah, younger.
Yeah, Miles in the Ultimates universe was young.
Exactly.
In Spider-Man PS4, he's older because he's still in high school.
Yeah. So that's the thing though, is it which age of Miles are we talking? Which one are we going to do?
And the thing is, if it's from a different universe, that's one thing. But if it's from the MCU, it was already mentioned that Aaron Davis, played by Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, had a nephew, and while it was in a deleted scene, it was confirmed that it was Miles. So that Miles is still young. You don't know if he was dusted or not, so you don't know if there's 5 years gap he was older. You never know if Miles could be old enough to take on the reins of Spider-Man now if he was in the same situation. You also don't know how the same situation could come about. As far as we know, the only radioactive spider that was around is dead, as said in Homecoming. That one little line, that the spider's dead. So how would the same situation happen for Miles? That also means there's probably not going to be a Cindy Moon Spider-Man, Silk, in live-action MCU right now, at least, because the spider's dead.
Right.
And the same spider in the comics bit Cindy Moon after Peter Parker. So,
but one thing, as you were saying just a second ago with Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, besides the Miles Morales stuff and the Spider-Gwen stuff, when will we get Prowler?
See,
that's a big.
I don't know.
That's a character that could really be used in right now or in another movie. It could be used for sure.
I just don't think he could be a major villain.
Not
Which
a major, but that's the thing.
To say, but
in this particular movie, he doesn't need to be a major villain.
I can see.
I'm not saying that Donald Glover is in this movie and he has stayed.
I don't think he will be
silent about it at all. But what I'm saying is this would be the perfect time for him to be Prowler, but not be the main guy.
Well, I think what they might do is they kind of set up Aaron Davis being a small-time villain. If they decide to pull the trigger on that, say he didn't get dusted, he becomes a villain during the 5 years that the world just was in devastation. You have him be a minor villain in one of the upcoming Tom Holland movies, but you have Scorpion being one of the big bads.
Right.
So you do, because they were both minor people in it and not really villains, but now that they've been accustomed to it, Scorpion could definitely be a villain. That would be a big bad because he's crazy. And then you have Prowler, who is someone who is just trying to protect his family, but he does bad things.
Right.
So,
but one thing I will say, and I'm going to get off the topic of different Spider-Man and this and that, but maybe the reason they haven't brought Prowler back is because maybe they're waiting for a Miles thing. Maybe they're waiting for the right time. And
they might be, yeah.
Donald Glover's, he's young enough to be Prowler, and he's going to have enough time. It could be 5 years from now. He's still going to be able to be the Prowler. He's not, as
God
old as
willing,
some of...
yeah.
Exactly. He's going to be there. So, if they do decide in the next 5 years or something like that, let's do a Miles Morales movie, he's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe that's what they're waiting for. Maybe they're waiting for the right time on that.
Now, keeping on the topic, I know we went back from villains to heroes back to villains-ish. One of the last, 3 total topics I want to talk about, because I think that's about all we had, because I said we'd circle back to 2 of them. One big theory that people were having, that was rumored a lot, was Ned Jacob Batalon, and I may have pronounced his last name wrong, so I do apologize, his character becoming Hobgoblin. Ugh.
That's
Hobgoblin.
A theory?
People have speculated that, yeah. Some people have said that Norman gets into his head saying, you're just a guy in the chair, you're underappreciated, Peter doesn't appreciate you, and he becomes Hobgoblin. The reason I don't think that's true is because in the trailer, he's up there with MJ in the final battle. Also, there's nothing... While, yes, Ned in the comics becomes Hobgoblin, nothing nothing has been hinted at him turning evil.
That idea kind of blows. That's
Yeah,
not
I know,
not
right?
a good idea
I
at
know,
all.
right?
And if they do
Well,
it,
it could be a
if
good
they
idea,
do
but not
it
right now.
fine. If they do it, fine. But that's an awful idea.
I feel like
on
you
paper.
could plant the seeds, kind of like how they did with Harry Osborn in the first Spider-Man trilogy. You could definitely plant the seeds of it, and maybe have him as the big bad in like the second or third Spider-Man movie.
Well, one thing I like his character, but I could never see him as a villain. I really can't.
Well,
it's
a
been
lot
too
of that-
long. This movie, they've been doing it for so long. I don't
A lot
think
of
they're
that
gonna
was
change it.
fueled by some pictures he had not recently, but like a couple months back, where he was really, really pale, and it was like clear that there was makeup on him, which hinted at the Hobgoblin like pale white face in the comics and then like other media. So it could be plausible, but I don't think they'll pull the trigger on that right now.
We shall
They could plant
see,
it.
is what I'll say. We
Yeah.
shall see. Now I think we've hit almost every theory out there, and some of ours. But one thing I want to say is, and before we start, maybe having one last theory and then wrapping it up, we haven't mentioned Daredevil.
No, because honestly, he is just pretty much confirmed already.
Yeah,
in my
but
head.
let's talk about it. I mean, that's kind of interesting. They're bringing him into the MCU. Maybe not as Daredevil.
Well, no. Let's make that a fact. Charlie Cox was confirmed, saying Kevin Feige said that Charlie Cox, if and when Daredevil does come to the MCU, it's going to be him. It's already rumored that he would be in No Way Home, which, come on, he is. He's going to be Spider-Man's attorney. That is one part of the film they have not shown, is Spider-Man having his innocence. This is why this film is almost 3 hours. So
That's going to be insane. They're packing a lot into 3 hours.
I think this is going to be the second longest film in the MCU. I believe it is a little bit longer than Eternals. Eternals was the second longest in the MCU. I think it will overtake it.
There's a lot to pack in this movie, but it's going to be it's probably going to be how it was for Endgame, and how I heard a lot of people be like, "Oh man,
like Endgame.
There was a lot of things rushed in because they didn't have enough time to say this and do that." It was 3 hours long.
Yeah.
The only thing they could have done is make it a trilogy, and there was no time for that. Interest was going to be lost. I mean,
yeah.
If we're being completely honest, 2 movies was fine. Was things kind of rushed in Endgame? Maybe. But you know what? It's a great movie. Infinity War is a great first one, and Endgame's a great second one. They all work together. It's like a big 5-hour movie.
But, with him already being rumored about being in No Way Home, it is now being rumored that he's going to be in She-Hulk. And he's going to be donning the red and yellow Daredevil suit. Because in this film, he's not Daredevil. He's Matt Murdock. But a rumored post-credit scene was that there's so many rumored post-credit scenes now that I don't know. And of course, that's not counting mid-credit scenes. But it said that a rumored post-credit scene was that he says something about this world, or the city, needs more heroes. And it pans to see him open a suitcase that has the Netflix Daredevil suit. So that could potentially happen.
See, but and I like that. But one thing is that in my brain, even though it probably won't happen, but it's something that I thought, man, this might be a good idea, is that the end credit scene, and I'm going to go ahead and say it now, I know they're not cast, I know this and that, but a great end credit scene would be to hint at the Fantastic Four. Go ahead and start bringing them in. I know they're not cast, but they've already confirmed there's gonna be a movie that's gonna happen.
Yeah,
it's already confirmed that they're bringing them in.
And it's John Watts, the same guy who has directed. I believe it's John Watts. I could be wrong, but I think it's John Watts that directs the this trilogy of Spider-Man.
But it would be an insanely great way to bring them in, and then they could be in him, Spider-Man, and the Fantastic Four. Obviously in the comics they were kind of doing stuff, but it'd be a great way to bring them in, and maybe even have Spider-Man in the Fantastic Four movie, or maybe them be in the next Spider-Man movie, them hint at him possibly wearing a bag, and he's like, I'm not going to wear that. It's just like a joke kind of at his Fantastic Four suit, where it's literally just a Fantastic Four suit and a
The
bag over his
Bombastic
head.
Bag Man.
Exactly. So I don't think they're ever going to actually make him wear that in any of the movies, but I'm sure they'll hint at it. Kind of how they hinted at the original suits for the X-Men. I think it was in the first one, right? Was that correct? Or was that First Class? That might have been First Class when they hinted at the big bright suits.
Oh,
that was
like
First
the
Class,
blue and
wasn't
yellow?
it? Yeah.
It was First Class, yes.
Did they ever
hinted
hint at Wolverine's suit in the first one?
A comic-accurate Wolverine suit was hinted at in a deleted scene in The Wolverine.
The Wolverine, yes. As you can tell, I haven't watched the X-Men movies in a while.
It was brown and yellow, so it was like the early comic-accurate.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I could see them being like, here, wear this, and then he's like, no, I'm not wearing that.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is one of the topics that I wanted to talk about, one of the last two. The multiverse breaking. Doctor Strange says, they're starting to come through, and I can't stop them. Something is happening. Someone is coming through. So many possibilities, so many theories. The X-Men, the Fantastic Four, more villains.
Just have Doctor Doom fly in. It's like, what the heck? No, what would be super cool, and I bet you a lot of people would not like it, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry, but you just see the Silver Surfer fly in on a surfboard. That'd be crazy.
One way to really cement this film as a good film would be, they should have done it in Eternals, to be honest. Have Silver Surfer show up, like, in the background, surveying the Earth.
Yeah, I'm going to say right now they probably shouldn't bring the Silver Surfer in during a Fantastic Four movie. That didn't work too well last time.
Well, my thing is, Silver Surfer was fine. The actor who played him was great.
I did not dislike the actor. He did a great Silver Surfer. The problem is
Galactus was the problem.
That was a big issue with that.
Here's the thing. I know in Eternals, they kind of hinted at what looked like the design for Galactus. The big bad for, the next MCU stuff is Kang the Conqueror. Galactus, depending on how, long this next phase and phases of the MCU are, Galactus could be right around the corner. You know what I mean? I don't think Galactus is hinted at in this when they're saying they're starting to come through. He's probably not in it. He's probably far off and related to the Celestials. So you never know. One thing that hints at the last topic that I want to talk about. They're starting to come through and I can't stop them. What if it ties into Wanda? Into the Scarlet Witch? Because in another TV spot, it's shown that when Doctor Strange is trying to control the breaking of the multiverse, there's runes. He is displaying protective runes around the area. This is exactly what Wanda does in WandaVision after finding out that the witch that casts the runes is the only one that can control the magic or something.
Well, something I want to bring up is that it's not a theory, it's a rumor, because obviously this movie has already technically came out from early releases. Yeah. And I guess the full worldwide is coming out tomorrow, or today actually. But the thing is that the rumor that happened during the premiere, as far as I know, I kind of read on it, is that there was a trailer for the Doctor Strange sequel.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. And,
it's like the end credit scene, or one of the end credit scenes.
Well, see, that's the thing, though, is that they were saying it really wasn't an end credit scene. It was more of just...
What happens after
they throw it, they just throw
it.
it in. So that's my thing. Is I mean, I understand
kind of like an extra.
Saying.
Exactly. On a DVD, how they would show a trailer and an extra.
So, yeah, I understand that, but I also don't think... It just depends on what they're going to do. You know, I don't know if right now is the time to throw Wanda into,
I think that this moment, because I'm not 100% sure when WandaVision takes place. It's presumed it's right after everyone's brought back. Is what I'm pretty sure is what it's assumed. But... And I think it's confirmed, so I might be stupid there. But Strange has to know somehow that Wanda is a threat. I think at the end of WandaVision, it shows Wanda in a cabin, and she's flipping through the Darkhold, trying to find a way to bring her kids back. And she hears "Mom, help" from one of her sons that sounds like an echo. What if this is the moment where the multiverse breaks and Wanda hears her kid? Because it's not determined when the post-credit scene of WandaVision happens. And you can hear a dark, altered version of Doctor Strange's theme, which hints at the Multiverse of Madness. What if the multiverse is breaking and she hears her kids and she goes to Doctor Strange in this moment, or possibly Doctor Strange sees her in this moment and realizes he can't control this because of her, like in a vision, not like necessarily showing her like there, but he sees her or senses her and it's hinted at it, saying that he's gonna have to stop this and stop her. And that probably is what's shown in the trailer.
If that's true, and that's the reason, then they've definitely been like hinting throughout. It seems that No Way Home is like the centerpiece of what's going on.
They've thoroughly put Spider-Man in the forefront.
That's the middle of everything. That's why everything's going on. Now, I will say before we conclude that I don't know if anyone's watched Hawkeye. I don't know if technically, I mean, would they know that the multiverse has been split? Like, would like society, would they know, or would it just be going right over there? Because the thing is if Hawkeye were to be after Spider-Man No Way Home, would you think that would be brought up in some way, or is it right before?
If Strange uses a spell to wipe everyone's memory. That's what's final theory. Strange and Peter go through with the spell, have everyone's minds wiped. And there was early set leaks of Peter trying to, like, meeting MJ during Christmas. That scene could be from after everything has happened, during the events of Hawkeye, when it's Christmas, everything has, settled, everything's done, and Peter's just trying to go live his life again, bearing the secret himself.
Yeah, because see, that's something I agree with.
So
that.
It's probably they wipe everyone's mind.
And I'll say this, I will agree with that, and I think that might be the reason. And I'll say this because, let's say, for example, I'll just take both sides of it, right? If it's after, wouldn't you think they'd bring it up? Unless it was, like I said, it went right over their heads. Or
if they didn't know.
If it was before, right? And, obviously Hawkeye's still a new show. But if there's
Hawkeye
things
also
going on,
mentions the new and improved Statue of Liberty.
Exactly.
Which, in No Way Home, obviously is being constructed and then destroyed.
But if it was before Spider-Man No Way Home, right?
Yeah.
Like right before, let's say, for example. Then here's my issue. Then when people were talking about, like, oh man, how could you forgive Ronan for what he's done, and this and that. Why didn't they bring up, look what Peter did. Look what Spider-Man is.
See, that's the thing.
That's the thing. They would bring that up. They would bring it up like, you can't trust
Spider-Man.
any of these superheroes. You can't trust any of the Avengers. That's something that they would have brought up, but they didn't. So
Hawkeye takes place after No Way Home.
Exactly, and I also
I think they've confirmed this, but it's like clear.
And I completely agree that they probably go through the spell because it makes no sense if they don't, and everyone just is like, okay, well, we forgive you, Spider-Man. That's a thing to bring up in Hawkeye. Like, really, it's like you can't trust this guy because you couldn't trust that guy, and that's something that I think would have been brought up. So I will agree they probably did go with the spell.
At this point, it does seem likely. So
I think that's a great way to, at the most recent show and movie that's coming out, I think that's a great way to conclude that, for sure.
Possibly, yeah. And it leaves the door open to more stuff, and it ties up loose ends with everything so that Spider-Man is the traditional hero that no one knows his identity. So no one will. Not even Nick Fury. Nick Fury won't even remember. Well, that might not be true. He's in space. So I don't know if it'll work. Who knows?
I mean,
we'll have to watch. We'll have to watch Secret Invasion.
Well, I'm glad that Spider-Man's never brought up in Hawkeye because, let's say, for example, the film did happen and, like, Spider-Man's in Rogers or something like that, and he's just like, who's that guy?
Well, let's be fair. The reason that Spider-Man really isn't mentioned in Hawkeye is because it's not a Sony Marvel thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But for an in-universe explanation,
yeah,
it's
gotta be
what we've already,
storyline, yes.
we've already discussed. So, last thing before we go, it's not a Spider-Man spoiler. We don't have any spoilers. It's not a Spider-Man theory, not a Spider-Man rumor. We're using a new mic. This is potentially going to be used for group sessions, so we were just trying it out for this one, seeing how it sounded. It might not work for just me and Clint, but you never know. We've always got to test things out.
Please give suggestions. If you think that the old one sounded better, let us know. We'll switch right on back, but we wanted to test out just to make sure, for sure.
I'm probably going to swap in between here and there.
Oh, of course.
Like, have one here, one there.
Yeah.
But you never know. This one was more expensive, higher quality. Bought really just for group podcasts and other projects, but you never know. It could be useful. And solo stuff. You never know. But this, of course, is recorded before we go watch Spider-Man No Way Home, which is on the 17th of December. This will be posted on today, December 16th. So, anything you hear is not a spoiler. It is just mainly theories and recaps of rumors that we've heard. So, don't give it hate, because we have not watched the film yet, and we will watch it tomorrow. So, if you've watched it, don't spoil it for anybody else. If you haven't watched it...
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Trust me, I had enough of that for Endgame. I don't want it again. Thank God I didn't have anything spoiled for me in Infinity War.
That should be on a t-shirt. Don't be that guy. Please don't.
Honestly, yeah. But, as always, I'm Dalton. You can follow me on Instagram at EllieDoBrand.
You can follow me on Instagram at ClintonWells2001. You can follow our music engineer, Chance, at chance.cummings.507. You can follow the podcast at LADo_podcast. You can follow our wrestling podcast if you're interested in that at LADo_wrestling_podcast.
And as always, we'll see you guys later.
See ya. Don't be that guy.